Really, lead generation for acquisitions in real estate. You're not trying to convince anybody to sell. You're not trying to do any of that. As opposed to like you're in the financial niche and you're trying to sell like this new newsletter, this new supplement. Yeah, you're trying to convince them to buy that. But in real estate, all you're doing is you're digging through the hay. You're looking for that one person who's a seller and interested in your cash offer. That's really it. That's why lead generation copy has been so simple throughout the years, because you're not trying to accomplish anything except you're trying to look for a seller.
All right. So we are here today with Paul DoCampo. Paul, thanks for coming on the show, man. Excited to have you on. I know we've been working with you a little bit through CCF and other sort of stuff, and you are kind of the copywriting guru. So appreciate you coming on to talk about everything investing and marketing related.
Yeah, for sure, man. I appreciate you having me on, man. Really do.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd love to sort of start back how you really got into this, because, I guess I've known you a little while through Ryan Dossie's program. I feel like we've periodically chatted every couple months over the past several years, it feels like. And then now you actually live up by us, which is kind of funny. But from what you were talking about, originally you used to be an engineer, kind of similar to how we did, or at least you worked for an engineering company, and now you're
my background has nothing related to investing or copywriting or anything technical like that. No, I was a welder. I was a foreman. Yeah, I was a foreman for the SoCal Gas Company. So yeah, I did that for several years. Foreman, ran my own truck, had a crew. Was a welder. At the same time I was doing that, I was also investing. I was a wholesaler. I transitioned from, it's a long story of transitioning from wholesaling, flipping mobile homes into notes. Still have some of those notes, flipping land, raw vacant land into notes, the cheap raw vacant land model that a lot of people do today. Built a volume business out of that, but then slowly moved out of it. And then at the same time, while I was doing that, I was a copywriter. I had my own info publishing business. I was a copywriter for DoCampo for a bit, and doing client work for people like Ryan Dossie. Now I'm Ballpoint Marketing, Call Porter, Ryan Dossie brands. That's like my main clients, my main companies I work with right now. As well as my own. So as far as copy goes for real estate investors, that's pretty much been there's several different copywriters in the world. There's people who are in a financial niche, health niche. Real estate investing has been my prime niche. In terms of coaching as well as just lead acquisitions as well. But I don't really do, people might ask to do some copy for lead generation. I don't really do that, just because, and we'll talk about tips for that, because very simple to do, and I'll lay down some framework for that. But mainly working with Ryan Dossie, CCF, Ballpoint, and my own brand, where we help investors build their own follow-up marketing, REI, OmniDrip.com. So yeah,
perfect.
That's
awesome.
My 6 year. I started back in 2015. So that is kind of short, story of the last 6-7 years of doing of investing in a mix of copywriting and all that. So
that's when you started actually copywriting, was 2015 or everything?
Like, so yeah, I got into in 2015, I jumped into wholesaling, by accident, had the opportunity to write for Carrot. Really, it was just pure accident, and then really enjoyed the whole art of copywriting, learned more about it. Probably got my first client maybe a couple years later, besides Carrot, got my first client a couple years later, and doing things related to it, creating an info publishing business, selling real estate training videos and things like that. Yeah, and using it for my own investing business too. I had a land volume business that I transitioned into probably around 2018, 2019. I had my own land volume business.
Yeah. Wow. I'm impressed you're able to make that transition from, I guess, being a welder and being in that sort of line of work, because negative stuff to say about those guys, but typically like swinging from something that's like a hammer swinging job or like a blue collar job to something that is as, technical and sort of web-based as it gets, which is copywriting, is a huge left-hand turn. Because I mean, even now we have a lot of contractors and stuff that we use that can't figure out how to answer emails on their phone. Right.
I would say even more. I would say, like, on top of that, even more impressive. And I think part of the reason why you don't find it is typically when you're in a blue collar trade, or you're in a trade where you're trading time for money, and it's not a salaried position. It's, typically, I'm assuming, as a welder for SoCal Gas, you were part of the union and you were paid to show up and leave at a certain time. There's not a lot of squish room in there for you to take phone calls, to start your own side, to start your business until you clock out.
Right. You're absolutely 100% right. And that was one of the big reasons why I transitioned into land. Because land is one of those businesses, I don't know about today, but back in 2018, it was one of those businesses, one of those niches that I can send a letter. I can send 500 letters out to landowners, and I probably don't even have to put my phone number in it. And I'd get signed contracts back. I'd get 3 to 5 contracts back in the mail. So it was just like a best place for me to be in right now, because I couldn't really take calls. I mean, it wasn't just I wasn't just working. I just wasn't working only your normal 8-hour shift. I did a lot of on-call shifts as well. So all nighters sometimes, and into the morning.
Yeah. So I guess just to go back to what you said, you would not even talk to these people. You would just send them a contract. Oh, sorry, we got a little bit of delay there. We'll edit that out. So I guess just to go back to what you're saying there really quick, you would literally just send them a contract. You never even talk to them, and they would just sign it and send it back to you.
Man, what kind of land is this?
Yeah, like I said, I don't know how it is today, and it probably varies from market to market. I focused in on the mountain land because with land acquisitions, it's kind of flipped compared to single family, where acquisitions is the easier part. Disposition, selling it, is the harder part of it, where now you got to be more marketing savvy. You got to build a buyer's list. And so the raw vacant land I was dealing with was up in the mountains. And I chose that because it had the sexiness appeal of selling to city folks, because just the area I was in. I lived in this area. I knew this area really well. And so this is in Southern California, Inland Empire, specifically, San Bernardino Mountains. And so, it had this kind of sexy appeal, that you can have your own piece of land in the mountains. You could possibly build your own cabin someday out there. These are small lots. Granted, the government probably makes it impossible to build on it, but either way, there was still this appeal, this unknown mystery of having your own lot in the mountains. As far as acquisition goes on that, I mean, people don't really know what their land is worth, especially when it's remote and obscure. They don't go out there. And so when you present to them that you're a real cash buyer, and I think that's key for anything, really. That's having the confidence that you're a real cash buyer. That's through your marketing. That's through face-to-face. It assures them that this deal is going to go through. So I think I wrote a pretty good letter for that. I think and I guess now we're transitioning into copywriting, but that letter, I made sure that I was communicating that I'm local. I'm communicating that I'm a real buyer, that I have that I'm credible. So I would always link anything that's related to me, social media or website, or both. And so just kind of clear out the objections of any kind of skepticism they feel. These are real people we're writing to. So real people we're facing. I mean, today there's so many scams, spams, and so eliminating the skepticism is a huge part of lead generation. So,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's still crazy though that it would turn that way, and I'd be interested to see how that would work up here versus in Southern California, because up in Idaho, man, people's view on land is very different. That usually their valuations are absurdly high, even if it's a completely useless piece of land. And a lot of people, they'll kind of want to be opportunists, I guess. I can't tell you how many calls we get of oh, I got 50 acres, but I want $1 million for it. And we're like, well, that doesn't make any sense. But the timber on this is worth so much money. I'm like, well, then you better get chopping, buddy.
Yeah,
because you got a missed opportunity if you're going to give it to me.
Yeah, they always want to. I mean, it's just like anybody that's trying to sell you on something, right? They look at the world through rose-colored glasses.
Yeah. So I mean, the value. So people. I mean, I'm in Idaho now, so I'm a fellow Idaho or Pacific Northwest resident. So
as of for about 1.5 weeks now.
1.5 weeks. Yeah.
Be careful, you'll get beat up for saying that in North Idaho.
Yeah, right. Saying that you're an official resident if it's been that new.
So,
like, there's
we
no way that's going to fly.
Snowstorm not too long ago. So coming from Southern California, I don't know what these white flakes coming from the sky is. I just the world is ending. So, people out here might value it a little bit more, but I think there's. I got out of it because, and this is probably a lesson for anybody here that. I think the old traditional land model, I think is kind of broken. And that is that land investors, or the way I did it, they did everything almost solo, and they had VAs. They had, for every single process of buying and selling land, they did it in-house. When they didn't include real estate agents into the process to help sell the land. Selling land takes a huge burden, a huge amount of work. You're constantly dealing with tire kickers going back and forth. And so I did that all myself, getting leads through my phone, cash buyer leads through my phone, dealing with, and these aren't cash buyers, investors. You're dealing with Joe Schmo that lives down the street, the plumber lives down the street. And so you're getting 500 texts a month on a specific land, and they're all tire kickers. So the best way, I think, to do it when you're dealing with this type of model is actually go for higher price lots, and including a real estate agent. They charge like $2,000 a pop. So it's well worth adding them into your process. So that's one of the biggest reasons I left land. It was just way too much work to do it solo, even with the VA.
Yeah.
So.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
It makes sense too, because even just listing properties, you get a bunch of tire kickers. I can't imagine land and people just not even that interested, but they want to see the opportunity. And to your point, you don't have anybody else in your team to take care of all of that tire kickers.
Yeah, it's 10 times more than in single family. And then even if you put people say, get a VA in place, you can do that, but then you're adding the language barrier, you're adding that layer so you can do a VA, but you need to include the whole you need to build a whole process for that, and then you need to include management for that too. And you can't people think you just hire a VA and the problems go away. It doesn't do that. You guys know very well it doesn't do that. Now you need to add management layer to that. So
yeah,
correct.
Yeah, exactly. But I know, that's the tire kickers. Just thinking about talking about the sellers with their view on like the timber. I'm trying to think of a couple of land things that we have done, Dan. They've had a lot of weird stuff that's come on. And the largest deal that we ever did, we wholesaled a piece of land and we made a very significant sum on it. But in order to get the deal done, we had to do all the due diligence for people and start the process of even getting the subplatting and all that sort of stuff done, just to weed through the tire kickers or to entice the tire kickers, because there was a lot of people that understood the potential there. But they didn't necessarily know how to piece it together. So by us just sort of getting the train rolling, we were able to sell it for significantly more than it would have been if it was
I would add too, in our market, there's probably complexities in every market, but with ours, almost all of the vacant land near the city is already owned by somebody that has legacy money, is going to develop it. They'll just sit on it to avoid paying taxes or to avoid you from developing it. They're just such large masses of families that own that land. And then if you get out into the outer skirts, a lot of it's farmland, which is more valuable in this region as farmland than it is as residential at this point in time. Then you go up north to the Canadian border, and that's where the crazy people are. And those are the kind of people, they live up there for a reason, and their land has more value, intrinsic value, than you would think.
Yeah, right.
It's tough. It's a tough land game in our market. It's not like that everywhere, probably, though.
Exactly. Yeah, they live up there intentionally so that they can hide away when the lizard people come to steal everyone's livers or whatever they're going to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, awesome. So you got out of that, and then I guess where'd you go from there? I know you were doing the land stuff. Did you ever wholesale properties as well, or were you just strictly doing that and then doing the land and then doing the copywriting?
I was still flipping mobile homes when they come. Yeah, mobile homes. I'm talking about in a park on leased land. So you don't own so you don't own the real estate. You own.
You want to buy one right now? We just got one in a contract today.
Dude, I'll sell to you right now. Super fast.
I wouldn't even take it for free. I think you have to pay me for it. No, not to say that those assets aren't worth it. They definitely are, because you can cash flow a tremendous amount for a low amount front end cost. And when I say cash flow, I don't mean putting a rental in, although there's some people that do that. Rachel Hernandez, I think, is her name. She's big into that. But no, I sold them as a note, so sell it, seller finance, and collect on it. Really never had any issues. Had a couple of them, they can't pay, something happens, and so you got to take it back and resell it. But no, I don't do that quite a bit because I don't like the rehab process. So I think every investor here, everybody, there's 100 different ways to get into real estate. I mean, even more than that. I mean, thousands of different ways to get into real estate. And it's really finding your stride, really finding your flow to things. And I didn't like the rehab process, even because I think everybody should dive into all the different personality tests and things like that. But I'm not great at management. I'm not great at creating processes for that. So the whole rehab process, even if you hire general contractor, which is extremely expensive in the mobile home space, it just didn't really jive with me. I just hated it. So I realized if I hate it, I need to get out of it. As an investor today, I'm just more of a private investor. So I'd rather be a.
What attracted you initially to the mobile stuff? Was it just the cash flow?
So I originally got into real estate because of cash flow. I wanted to get cash flow, but Southern California is kind of a very complex market when it comes to doing single family on your own, and wholesaling and all that. So the mobile home deals just kind of fall in your lap sometimes. If you're marketing, you're getting out there, they fall in your lap. And then there's a couple individuals at the time that really bank on it, and they taught me how to do it. And so I just tried it, jumped on it, and collected on the cash flow, but hated the rehab process. There's ways around that. There's always ways around something, right? So if you hate the rehab process, you don't rehab. You buy it, you sell it as is. You wholesale it. There's definitely ways around it. Yeah, there's, like I said, 1,000 different ways to do what you want to do that makes you feel comfortable and really leverages your strengths. So.
Yeah, I remember that was super big, like a number of years ago when I was first getting into real estate. Was you heard tons of people that were doing like the different selling on terms of mobile homes and how much more it cash flowed, and you could if you get it for like super cheap, like 10 grand, and you could sell it for 50 grand with like $10,000 down and 10% interest. I mean, I remember even actually early on in CCF, we had a guy that came on and talked, and that was exclusively what he did. And because the cash flow was so much better. But it's funny because I feel like you don't hear about that too much anymore. Now, like the shtick that everyone goes to that I think is kind of a fad to try and pursue extra cash flow is like the Airbnb arbitrage stuff, right? Yeah. Or like the same sort of thing. It's like, you don't actually have to put as much money into it. You can get it all back. You cash flow more. But same sort of thing. Like we'll see how sustainable that really is over the long term, just like with the mobile stuff.
Yeah, there's always a unique cash flow play, right? People are always looking for something, and people always go underwater. I still like the mobile home thing as a cash play. The thing I don't like about mobile homes is it goes against my real estate philosophy of long-term wealth building, because a mobile home is depreciating and not wealth building. But if I was like hard up and just wanted cash flow, you could still go buy mobiles in a park for 10 grand, put 10 in them, and then sell them on a note or keep them as a rental. But the Airbnb arbitrage, that's another one that we can, not an appreciating asset.
Right, yeah. I mean, like I said, I think there's 1,001 ways to do something. And there's I don't think there's really anything new that comes into the scene. Everybody's looking for like a new game to play, but somebody's done it in the past. It's just been exploited and leveraged in social media. Like I said, I think it's really just finding what works in your market. I mean, if you want to work in your market or do virtual, I mean, that's another option. But what I did in Southern California is probably not going to work in North Idaho, So it's really leveraging what you're good at, what you enjoy, what your status is right now, or today. I don't really care about cash flow. To me, I'm trying to leverage and grow wealth, just like you, long-term assets. So your stage and everything's gonna within a span of 5 years, is gonna completely change from the beginning to the end. and what you do. So I've done several, as I said, I've done several different niches. Like I was right after land. You asked me what I did after land. I got into info publishing. I had my own website that I was selling. I bought the rights to a real estate seminar, and I was selling that. So that's when I really got in tune with my copywriting skills. So,
gotcha. Awesome,
fascinating. A real estate seminar, so you can buy real estate seminars to sell. How did that work?
It's kind of the same as real estate. So you can actually, so how I did it was I knew somebody. That's all. I mean, there's not like seminars for sale out there that you can. There might be if you can buy the license to it and stuff like that, but I knew this person. I bought the rights to it because it wasn't doing anything. He wasn't doing anything with it. So I did some finishing editing touches to it, and then got the whole website going. Got the whole the whole email marketing, everything, all the ads going for it, and was selling it. So why I didn't continue with it. Because today it's a lot harder to sell information if you're not a guru or coach. So that's why it was taking a lot more work and a lot more a front end effort to acquire a lead, not being a guru myself. So
right, that's a good. And I'm going to go down a little rabbit hole here because you kind of just piqued my interest when you talk about customer acquisition. Do you I mean, you're doing land, you're doing mobiles, you're selling coaching, you're doing all these different niches. Is that something that you learned to focus on, that you have focused on? Or is that a metric, especially as you get into the copy space? Like what is good customer acquisition costs, and like how do you track that and measure that?
Yeah, so this is something big we do within Ballpoint, within Call Porter. We're always looking at the cost, but I mean, customer acquisition costs, just like in real estate. I mean, a lot of these things all these businesses blend together, really. I mean, if you boil it down to the metrics, but customer acquisition cost, it's a huge metric that people look at, but it doesn't mean just a high cost of a customer acquisition isn't a bad thing. What matters is the back end of how much money you can make with that. Just like in real estate, the cost per acquisition doesn't really matter. It's what you can make out of that deal. So.
Right. Yeah. Right. So if it costs you $1 to acquire a customer, but you make $2 on them, or maybe you could get what is the lifetime value of that customer? Those sorts of things are the actual metrics that matter. And I've heard, and I'm not an expert in this, but like folks are saying, like, hey, if a customer returns you $1, theoretically you could spend 99 cents on that customer, right? You can spend all the way up to that, and then you can win at the scale game.
Right. But then you got to look at. Yeah, then you got to scale that. I mean, to make you got to scale 1 cent profit margin. Right.
But theoretically, right, you're profitable at that point, right?
Not including overhead. Not including everything else. So, you do want to get deeper margins, of course. But I'm more of a 4 quarters versus 100 pennies guy. A lot of people want to do the whole volume game, scale as much as possible, lower their margins so they can add processes or lower the cost of things. But it really depends what you can handle in life, what you want to deal with. Me personally, I don't have employees. I have VAs. I have a couple VAs under me, all under an ad agency. By the way, I don't go out and try to farm my own VAs. I have an agency I have a relationship with, and they just supply me with VAs whenever I want, I should say.
Whenever they want. We need to take this new VA, please. They need to get paid.
So you can have employees if you enjoy that part, include processes, but it's what you want to handle in life. So there's a million and one ways to do things.
Yeah, well, I think the big sort of things being said here is that regardless of what you're trying to do, whether you're trying to find, off-market properties, you're trying to, sell real estate seminars, you're trying to, find copywriting clients, the general philosophy behind, finding leads is somewhat the same. You can run a lot of systems with virtual assistants, you can automate a lot of the processes, and, at the core of it, though, one of the big things that is important is the sales copy. Right, and like why your value proposition is the one that they should consider. So let's dive into that a little bit, and just sort of here. I guess like if you have any main notes for just general copy, good practices, and then how exactly you do the copy and structural aspect for the different follow-ups and other sort of drip campaigns and things that you
definitely
create.
Yeah. So that's a big hang up for real estate investors. In this industry, it seems to be that a lot of investors aren't writers, or they think they are, and so they make it a little more complex than what it really is, especially when it comes to lead generation. And really, lead generation for acquisitions in real estate, you're not trying to convince anybody to sell. You're not trying to do any of that. As opposed to like you're in the financial niche and you're trying to sell like this new newsletter, this new supplement. Yeah, you're trying to convince them to buy that. But in real estate, all you're doing is you're digging through the hay. You're looking for that one person who's a seller and interested in your cash offer. That's really it. That's why lead generation copy has been so simple throughout the years, because you're not trying to accomplish anything except you're trying to look for a seller. I remember years ago, this gal came to me. She was cold calling, and she was having a lot of trouble. She said to me, I can't find a deal with these cold calling lists. And I told her, like, you're kind of looking at this ass backwards here. When it comes to cold calling, when it comes to mailing, door knocking, whatever it is, you're not looking for a deal. There's no deal there yet. You're not looking for any deals. All you're looking to do is find a seller so you can grow a relationship with them, put them into your system, and keep following up with them. So as far as actual copy within lead generation, we always keep it simple. The number two things that I try to employ into all of them is I'm trying to break a couple objections. One is that we're not a national type of home buyer. There's some plays you can do there if you actually are. You don't want to lie. That's fine. But if you are local or somewhat local, you have boots on the ground. Communicating that you're local is a big plus for sellers. Sellers love that. And Mike, you and I talked about this. I think what you do is fantastic. Like, you actually put something in there that that shows them proof that you're actually local. And proof is a big thing in copy. Proof is always talked about in copy. Showing proof, social proof.
Yeah, and I guess just so to emphasize on that, what that social proof means, it's not even anything crazy. Like, we'll even just like reference like a recent snowstorm that we just had that everyone here universally experienced, that a home buyer from Texas probably didn't even realize happened. But the funny thing is, we'll do the same thing in our virtual markets too. So like if we're sending some letter to Jacksonville, Florida, I'll go and I will Google before I put together the the marketing campaign, like, oh, current things that happen in Jacksonville, Florida. It's like, oh, no way. The Florida State, not even know Florida State's there, is like ranked number 1. Like, that's cool. Let's make a reference about that, because there's or like something that's like somewhat relevant.
Something that's huge there. into that market, right? One thing that I would ask on this is why? Because sometimes there is great social proof in a national brand. So what would I be missing if, like a good example would be, I'm driving down the road here in Spokane and I see a We Buy Houses billboard, and then I'm going to go drive through another city and I'm going to see that same billboard. I'm like, damn, that's a big company. And then they send me a letter. Is that bad? Like, is that what's the difference between national and local and that at that scale, at that level? Is that, am I missing something?
I've never tested. I don't think anybody's tested this. Testing this stuff is, people talk about split testing, and testing is incredibly hard to do to get statistical significance, right? So people think they can send 1,000 mailers and split test it and they have results, but that's not a split test. I think it's I think the biggest thing that even if you're national or local, that you're trying to break down is whether or not you're credible. I think that's especially today. The skepticism runs pretty high with everybody right now. That's why I think cold text messaging methods their responses are turning low right now. A lot has to do with it. You got to keep turning new numbers, right? But I think just because more and more people become skeptical, and if you can show them that you actually are a real person, there's a real person behind there, that I think the local play just just breaks that objection down that if you're credible or not. So I think that's the biggest key is really trying to communicate that you're credible.
Yeah. And I think that's going to be highly market dependent, based off of the general seller population. So for example, for us in Eastern Washington, Northern Idaho, there's generally an aversion to people that aren't from the local area. People are always bitching about people from Seattle moving here, people from California, people from wherever. Sorry, Paul. But it's something that they have, they push back against that, right? Like they don't want that to happen. So as a result, they try to support local endeavors, local businesses, and I think that the typical seller population, the motivated seller population, is going to be on that, leaning that way even harder because they're going to typically be lower education and be a little bit more, what's the right words, like inflammatory type of individuals. But when we have like our national brand that we use for a lot of our stuff, and we found that going to like Chicago, for example, we were doing deals in the outskirts of Chicago for a while. They didn't care, at all, because it's such like a metropolitan sort of area that if you're a larger company that's coming there, they're like, all the big companies do stuff in Chicago. But
they're used to that big brand.
Exactly. But like a big brand coming and all of a sudden doing things in Post Falls, Idaho, they're like, no one gave a shit about Post Falls until 18 months ago. So like why
COVID hit?
Yeah, exactly.
So that's a huge point. It's a industry to industry, business to business. There are these principles that cover just about everything. And what you're talking about here is market research. That's huge in copy. In copywriting, market research. Everybody talks about it. To be a great copywriter, you have to be a phenomenal researcher. But you're talking about the same thing here. Going from, you want to be a virtual wholesaling was kind of sexy a few years ago. I mean, it still is, but because they think you don't have to meet anybody face to face. But there's still this component that if you don't do it, and I think a lot of people are lazy. A lot of people are lazy about it. Is actually researching the market that you're going to be buying it. I mean, even if it's I'm not going to be actually buying it, I'm just assigning the contract. Well, you're going to put all that effort into marketing, all that effort into getting boots on the ground, and then if you're going to do boots on the ground, and then you don't research like what people feel, what are they getting right now, what kind of marketing efforts are there in play right now, how people feel, how people talk, what cash buyers want. That's another big thing. What do cash buyers want in that market? So, research is huge. Yeah,
that's huge.
Yeah, and that's getting into the sales process too, especially talking about like, how the local population talks and all that sort of stuff. For example, like when we were in Chicago, the kind of people that would be calling, they had the foulest language like on every call, just because like that's kind of the way that they talk to each other there, especially with the general population that we were marketing to. And it's funny because the sales manager that we had there, he wasn't super comfortable with that. He was kind of like a clean cut, sort of reserved guy. And you have these Chicago callers in that are like, who the fuck is this? And they're like, and like
you gotta match it.
Yeah, you gotta match it though. You gotta mirror that, and that's sales.
If you're gonna be communicating your local, and then like these people are gonna be able to notice if you're not from there or not. So if you're gonna be communicating your local, and all of a sudden you're talking like a square from over here in California, they're gonna notice that from a mile away. So.
Yeah. And that's huge with people that use like cold callers and other sort of outreach as well. Like one of the things that we find, and people do this over and over again here, I don't know why they keep trying it, and then they always say like, oh, well, my cold callers aren't performing very well in Idaho. It's because you're having someone from the Philippines call. Right. And I'm sorry, but people from Idaho, they do not want anything to do with someone from the Philippines.
Yes. Hello, Mr. Dehan? Is this Mr. Dehan? It's like, no.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to pick up the phone. Hey, you fucking hillbilly, you want to sell me your house?
Yeah.
That's how they're going to do it.
But like to be completely honest, but you use that same person in, say, Seattle, where there's a large...
they're used to here. Yeah, they might have
absolutely. So that's going to respond a lot better, and that can be reflected in your different marketing tactics, your copy, all that sort of stuff. So
definitely,
awesome.
For copy, I think where does copy come into play? I mean, we talked about it here in lead generation, right? Sales process. It's all this. I mean, sales, copy. It's everything blends together. Really, it's all context. It's all market, but. I think for copy tactics, I do more so in the follow-up marketing part of it, the whole drip part of it, which is what we create, which I create. I created a brand called OmniDrip, REI OmniDrip.com. And that's where I employ a little bit more copy tactics and principles and marketing principles too. There's a whole philosophy to how I do it, looking at it more like a funnel. I know you guys have a pretty solid follow up on your end. You guys have your own tactics and philosophy that you've employed. So yeah.
Yeah. So want to dive into that though, your OmniDrip company?
Yeah. So when we build follow up, we build drip follow up messages, emails, SMS, voicemail scripts for investors. We found that most of the people that have dived into it are people who have a team, who have a brand. Not so much new investors, but I mean they could still join my list and get a look at how we do it. But the thing about today is the old system of follow up marketing. What investors still do today is they employ an old folder system, which is the hot, cold, and warm bucket type of follow up. I mean that works. That does work today, but if you have a lot of leads coming in, that becomes a little confusing. And today, what I've used for follow up is what I've used for e-commerce businesses, for the coaching business, etc., where it's more of event based triggers. So how I look at it with in real estate is that everything is a funnel. You have your leads coming in, you have at the bottom, you have your deal close. But within those, and I have a whole demo that explains this, but within those, you have different events where a seller can go off. They can sell to somebody else, or sign with somebody else. They can tell you that your offer's too low. All these are events that trigger a specific problem or pain point that you can leverage in your copy. See, a lot of what people have trouble with, investors have trouble with, is coming up with follow-up messages that are bigger or more grandiose, I can say, than are you still interested in selling? And I look at their messages, and that's what they repeat like throughout. Variations of, are you still looking to sell? Are you still looking to sell? But this gets in a copy where a cash offer can mean 100 different things for somebody, and this is where in copy principles you have features and benefits. This is like the most basic instruction for copywriting is you have features and benefits. Cash offer is a feature, but what does that mean for a seller? It can mean 100 different things. A cash offer means that they can sell their house and leave all their things behind. That's actually a big thing for me. I had so much junk when I moved from California to Idaho, and like getting rid of that stuff is a pain in the ass, So that could be a huge benefit for a seller. So there's about a dozen different benefits that a cash offer can accomplish for it. Depending on where they're at in the stage of a drip follow-up marketing, that's where you start leveraging these things. Depending on what kind of lead it is, it could be a vacant house lead, a landlord with tenants, an owner occupant. Each one of those have problems and pain points that are they're specific to them, and where the other lead has no idea what they're dealing with. So there's so many things in follow-up marketing within copy that we can talk about. That's more than just asking the question, "Are you still interested in selling?" We're leveraging benefits. We're leveraging all the different features. We're leveraging the pain points that seller is going through within the stage of their cycle. So that's basically. I mean, I can talk a lot about more. I know you got limited time here. We can talk a lot more about what we do with SMS, with email, and all that. The 10,000 foot view of follow-up marketing. But it's up to you, man. If we have time for that.
Yeah, we can dive into it a little bit, we can just get out some stuff in the middle if we go a little bit long. But I guess so. Just to reemphasize what you're saying, basically what you do is you look at the different motivation that people have, and with your REI OmniDrip program, you help build custom follow-ups for the different situations that people have that are also specific to people's sort of like markets.
Yeah, sort of. So. Ideally, I mean, it's not so much like motivation. It's not so much like if it's a tax default and all that, because when you start looking at different lists like tax default, bankruptcy, etc., they kind of, the motivations aren't necessarily the thing that's causing it, right? The motivations and the solutions that you bring are kind of the same throughout throw out the table. What I look at more is events. So a missed call is an event, right? So that's a sequence of messages that where the call to action for a missed call is getting them back on the phone with you. Them rejecting your offer, that's an event. Rejecting offer for a specific reason, they're fixing themselves, right? I've gotten that quite a bit. Hey, your offer's too low, I'm just going to go fix the house myself. Well, that is a prime opportunity to leverage problems that they're going to encounter later on, and be a base of be a source of value for them. Because you could also, especially if you have a site, you have articles that you can link them to. You have to show them that you're a credible source, that you're an expert, you're an authority leader on the topic. So it's more of a holistic approach to marketing. It's not just getting a response with that message. It's also, am I building credibility? Am I building authorship with this messaging? It's a little bigger than just getting a response. But to answer your question, I usually, what we do is we have about 20 different sequences that each cover a point in a seller's phase. Everything, even after the deal is closed, a lot of people have trouble getting testimonials. Well, we create a sequence for that. Now, granted, not everybody, you guys are a lot simpler than that. A lot of people want simpler, and that's fine. Problem that I've created sequences pretty much when requested and when it fits. So.
Yeah, I really like that. I think this is like one of those things where we have to remember in our follow-up, there's things you can do that help and things that you do that hurt. A simple text message response can hurt the relationship. I've been guilty of hurting the relationship, many a times. And so I like the idea of having somewhat canned scripts. Yeah. And I'm going to take a shot across the bow here and ask you this. Is like, so are you using AI, NFT, Bitcoin enabled texting engines to do this, or is this actual like human touch and like actual things a human would say?
No. I know. So how you're asking how am I scaling this basically?
Well, no, I'm just asking like, so what happens? What I see a ton of times with these like people that want to do texting campaigns or calling campaigns or any marketing campaign, they always say we have like this cool AI system in the background, which is trying to come up with the canned responses, which are shit because they're not good. Or it's somebody from the Philippines going off of a simple response, which you said earlier. Are you still interested in selling, sir? And it's like, that does not work for a lot of reasons.
Right. Yeah. So, AI is getting pretty huge. Copywriters use AI. A lot of copywriters are afraid it's going to take their jobs. It's not going to take their jobs. But copywriters use AI to make writing faster. And there are platforms now coming out for investors where you send out mail and it says text us for an offer. You text back and it's AI generated. I've seen them firsthand. I think they have I think they have a long ways to go, but there'll probably be somewhere out there. AI is growing fast. It really is. Now, am I using AI? No, I'm not using AI for this. This is I've carefully written every message myself. I've created variations of it, and so we my team actually places it in their CRM for them. So it's not like another subscription or anything like that. It's just a one-time thing, a one-time fee. They pay. We put them my team puts them into their CRM. How it's generated is I have a bank of variations for each message, and I make them I try to make every message agnostic so that it doesn't collide with conversations you might be having with people. So it's just mainly bringing up a pain point, or not so much. I don't want to talk about like, hey, we heard you just got divorced. How about selling your house? Like something, some kind of bullshit thing like that. But no, but it's bringing up solutions. It's my whole philosophy for real estate copy is I try to put at least one. I stick it with one benefit to each message, whether it be front end lead generation, back end lead generation. I try to put at least one benefit. If it's not like a blatant, I do have questions. Are you still interested in selling? I have those where they fit, but it's probably like one or two out of every sequence. But every other one is have at least one benefit, because it's like I said, a cash offer can mean 100 different things. I'm trying to remind them of what we can offer for them.
So when you say like one benefit, like what exactly are you, like, give me one example.
Yeah. So if they fall into, so I have a landlord. So I do segment some sequences. I do segment, meaning, offer too. I keep bringing this up because that's what I have in mind. I have a few others, but offer too low. I have a owner occupant sequence for that. I have a landlord, and I have a tenant. I'm sorry, not tenant. Landlord, tenants, vacant. The vacant person, he's going to have certain problems that have to do with the house deteriorating, finding a buyer, not being able to get a loan on it. So a solution to that we offer is we can buy it as is, right? So without making any repairs, I can buy it with one appointment, right? So a lot of people can buy with just one appointment or one inspection. So that's a benefit, a solution to that that I remind them in the message. Hey, John, I'm just a reminder that I wish I don't have them up right now, but hey, this is a reminder. We can buy your house as is. I know that it's been X amount of days, but as time goes by, the house is deteriorating, and we can buy it as is right now for a top cash offer. I just threw that up on the spot. That's not an actual message. Text messaging copy.
Yeah.
I try to keep it as short as possible. I try to actually for some message I actually have deliberate typos. That way that it looks like it's still coming from an actual person. I eliminate words as long as it makes sense. Because again, shortness of SMS copy is pretty important for me. Pretty important for SMS copy in general. Keeping it short and brief and snappy too. So if I'm bringing up a solution or I'm bringing up a benefit, it might be. I can pull some up. I wasn't prepared for doing this, but let me pull something up here. You guys can edit this out while I'm searching for something here.
Yeah, no, it's good, man. I like to. I'm testing your expertise here.
Yeah, right on the spot, live.
Pulling up literal examples from REIOmnidrip.com.
So let me there's a sequence that that a lot of people like, which is they signed with someone else. So let me wait for that one to come up here. So sign with
and
go ahead.
Yeah, the biggest solution to that is you just go and you try to get them to sign with you anyway at a better price, and then just try to close before the other wholesaler.
There you go.
That's never happened to us.
Yeah, that's never happened to us ever. Yeah.
Okay, so well, now that you bring this up, I should say this, that what I've designed doesn't remove manual follow up. That's like a big component. I mean, I'm not trying to remove manual follow up. What I'm trying to do is take away some of the heavy lifting away from it. There are tasks that there's probably every 3-4, depending on the context, depending on the sequence, there are actual tasks to follow up, and there's voicemail scripts that are like pertinent to the positioning of the step. But I might say something. Hey, John, letting you know we're buying a house very close to your vacant property. If you change your mind about our repair-free offer. So when I say our repair-free offer, that's a benefit right there. It's kind of it's subtle. Mm-hmm. It's very sly. But it's a reminder. Hey, it's repair-free. You don't have to it's reminding them about the repairs and to make it a vacant house to actually put it on the market. Right? It's not fear-mongering. It's just. It's being top of mind and
it's stating a fact.
It's the what is there's like this when you hear the hidden messages behind commercials and stuff like that.
So like the subliminal.
There we go.
Yeah.
It's not subliminal. It's there, but it's reminding them. All right, I gotta fix this house. I gotta get this house on the market if I want to sell. I need to actually make it lending approval. It's these different subtle benefits to this vacant house lead. Let me scan through here. I mean, I have voicemail scripts as well. This is an actual live person I'm reading through. This is his messaging. is code enforcement leaving notices every month of your vacant property. Our cash offer takes care of that. Text us for a new cash offer. This is deep into it already. They haven't responded, and you're sending this to try to get another response. So the point of that one is to get a response. Text us for a new cash offer. So yeah,
and I think that's kind of the key with a lot of this, though, too, is like you said there, it's to get a response. And ultimately, and this is what we always help people in our instant investor program as well. The number one indicator on if you're going to get a deal is their willingness to communicate with you, and their willingness to have an open conversation, more so than their motivation, more so than the situation with the house condition, anything like that. If they're willing to have a conversation, that is what you need to get a deal done. And with these different sort of drip campaigns and stuff like that, it's the hope is to reignite a conversation that's probably gone stale.
One of the principles too, as well, is to raise your value that you're bringing. And what I mean by that is inside of a holistic marketing plan that we do I do for Ballpoint, Call Porter, whatever e-commerce business I've been involved, we do want them to be in our world. And what I mean by that is it's not just a one single lane of marketing that we do, right? That single lane of marketing, we want to transcend into them going into our website as well. So in our in some of the almost all the drips in the beginning, I'm trying to also sell the click. That's a common phrase in marketing. Sell the click to get them back to the website. So I might have something. So if it's a sequence that's about repairs, like so the vacant sequence, the vacant house lead sequences, repairs come into mind. So I have articles that talk about fixing a vacant house. Well, I want to drive them over from the text message to the website, because that is it. That if that's accomplished, if they actually click and drive over to the website, that's actually two touch points I hit them with. Because remember, we talk about touch points in marketing. You have multiple. They used to say 7, but it's actually a lot more than that these days. You need multiple touch points. Well, that's 2 touch points I've created for them. And that also increased my credibility, right? They went on my website, and it's instilling in the idea that, hey, this guy's a real person. He actually has a website. He's credible. He actually has information. He has valuable information here for me. And then if you do really advanced market, it's not really advanced, but if you're doing retargeting ads, you've just landed that person on your website to add them to your retargeting list. So
yeah, totally. I was just thinking that as you're talking through that, I'm like, boom, there's your third touch point.
Yeah, exactly. Your third, fourth, and fifth, and sixth, while
you're 150th.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But awesome. Well, that's all good stuff, Paul. So we got to start winding down here. So we're going to jump into our final questions here. So first question, and you probably should have given you time to prepare for this one, because sometimes people come up with good stories after we ask it. But what is your craziest real estate investing story? And this can be a good story, bad story, and you being the land flipper and mobile home flipper, I'm sure you have a couple good ones.
Mobile homes, yeah, right. You're gonna find, there was a mobile home lead, and this one still reeks in the back of my mind. No pun intended on this, but mobile home lead, nice area. This is Orange County. Orange County's,
they have mobile homes.
This was the last one. The last one of
that
Orange they knocked down and put a $1.5 million house on.
And it was an elderly couple. They lived together in one mobile home. She owned the other mobile home next door, but her cats lived in it. That's the one she was selling. Right? She had about 10 cats. She had about 10 cats living in it. The cats also used it as their toilet inside. So, so she wanted me to check it out. I went in, and there is cat shit piled in every corner. She said this has been like this for 5 years, right? So, I couldn't mobile homes usually like the side door. You walk in, and it's the washing machine or the mudroom, whatever. So I walked through that, went to the hallway. I just said, okay, I'm good. I had enough. I'm trying to be polite about it, you know. Like, you want to see the rest house? No, I'm good. Like, this is good enough. I mean, it was.
I saw what I need to see.
There was cat shit in every single corner. It was the worst stench I've ever smelled in my life. It's probably a rotting cat somewhere there too. Like I said, she had 10 cats. So, so that was, I still have that stench burning my nostrils. So, that's probably the worst one I've ever been to. I've been in cockroach infested mobile homes too, in broad daylight where you step in and they're everywhere. So, mobile homes.
Man, that lady was taking like a cat condo though to the next level. She literally had like a single wide
cat condo to the next. She took it up to a lower level. A cat condo would be nice compared to a cat trailer.
Yeah, right.
So I didn't buy that one. If anyone's, I did not buy that one. She wanted $10,000 for it. So, no. And even the park didn't. That's another obstacle mobile home flipping is you have to deal with the park. Sometimes the park didn't even want to sell it. They felt like it was a hazard. So no shit, So So they hauled off they trashed it and they put a new one in. So
and that's now the cat's got an upgrade.
They still live there. They left.
They still live there, right?
So, you get the bonus and upgrade with all that. So.
Oh my God, that's funny, man. That's a good one. I haven't heard that one before.
Me neither.
All right, next question. And I'm gonna make it a little more specific for you. What is the number one copywriting tip you would give for a new investor looking to, I guess, start finding deals, or an experienced investor looking to increase their use of copy in their business?
That's a good one. I mean, we've talked a lot about copy already.
I want like the number one tip that someone can take away from listening to this podcast and go and do something immediately.
Yeah, I would say stop talking like you're from the HR department. Okay, so when you're writing copy, this goes along with email. When you're writing to an agent's list, right? You want to get pocket deals, or you're writing to your cash buyers. Just write casual. Write like you talk. That's a common that's a common saying is write like you talk. And really I get it across the table all the time. These people that are trying to sound professional, like this is the way you're supposed to sound like you're from the HR department. Just eliminate all that and just talk and just write like you talk. So that's my number one tip.
Yeah, that's great advice. I like that.
I think that's super huge. And yeah. I mean, I always do that with our sales guys as well. As I've said in the past, is like when they're doing texting follow up. I mean, totally people fall into the zone of just want to go say, "Oh yeah, are you ready to reconsider our offer?" It's like, no, just like check in, reach out to them about whatever situation was that you built rapport with them about, and just do like a check in and treat it that way, as opposed to trying to make it immediately transactional.
Yeah,
or trying to be too formal about it. I mean, who texts somebody that says, "Hello, Mr. Seller, return."
Notwithstanding the weather today, how are you?
Yes, exactly. This is Mike with 1, 2, 3 properties, and I just wanted to re-inquire about your property at AVT. It's like
good day, sir.
Yeah, no one texts like that or communicates like that.
Except the Filipinos.
Exactly. Nobody puts proper grammar. Nobody puts the comma in there. It's just just let it go, the flow. Just like as if you're talking to your buddy with context, of course, right? They don't look at you as your buddy, but like the way you talk,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Agreed.
Cool. Great advice. All right. And last question, where can people find you, follow along, and reach out to you if you'd like them to do
Definitely.
so?
Just go to my website, and I'm going to put your link here so they can get free samples of my of what I offer. REIOmnidrip.com/keys. If you go there'll be free samples of some sequences. They can get a demo of how all this works. They can get started on that. So
perfect. All right, guys. So go check out REIOmnidrip.com/keys, and you can see some free samples of all of the professionally copywritten follow-up and drip sequences that we talked about today. So awesome. Well, thanks so much, Paul, for hopping on. Thanks so much for listening, guys. And if you want to learn how to find off-market deals, you can go check out instantinvestorprogram.com. And Dan and I will teach you exactly how to do it. And we are probably going to start using Paul's different sequences here very shortly, because tell you what, anything we can do to just simplify the follow-up process a little bit, it's going to be huge.
Get an edge, simplify it, delegate it. I love it.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, guys. And thanks, Paul, for hopping on. And we'll talk to you guys next week.
Thank you.
See ya.